Part 6, Resources for the Financial Services Sector. As we've learned already, trafficking is a complex crime. It is dynamic, and traffickers are ever evolving their tactics to stay one step ahead. A crime this complex requires collaborative, cross-sectoral solutions. In Canada, governments and the social services sectors have been working to address the unique needs of survivors and disrupt trafficking operations. More recently, the private sector has joined this fight too. The next section will identify tools and resources, as well as practical actions to empower the private sector to be part of the solution to addressing trafficking in Canada. One really great tool and resource we now have is the Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline. While your workplace will likely have specific actions, policies, and protocols that staff should adhere to when encountering suspected trafficking activity or suspected money laundering associated with trafficking activity, the hotline is also a really great resource for employees and community members who may require more information, who have questions, or need resources. The hotline is confidential, toll-free, available 24/7 in both English and French, with live interpretation available upon request. Callers can remain completely anonymous and confidentially discuss a trafficking situation, evaluate the indicators or behaviors they may have witnessed with a trained professional. Cases and tips are reported to police and are triaged and may be referred on to points of contact if requested and if appropriate. The hotline service can be accessed a number of different ways, by chat, by phone, by email, and by web form. The hotline provides callers with the following services: safety planning for individuals who are being trafficked, who want to leave or exit a trafficking situation, and safety planning for someone who knows someone who's being trafficked. Safety planning is a discussion about the practical steps a person may take to keep themselves as safe as possible in a potentially unsafe situation. The hotline provides connections to over 1,000 social service agencies in your community or in the closest community to you. The hotline provides trauma-informed, non-judgmental, non-prescriptive support. The hotline often assists with general information calls and requests for resources from the general public. And finally, callers are able to discuss potential trafficking situations and their reporting options. So what other innovations exist to address human trafficking? There are committed public and private sector leaders in Canada and the US who are meaningfully committed to addressing human trafficking. I mentioned Project Protect earlier, which is the public-private partnership between the major banks in Canada and FINTRAC, which is using existing anti-money laundering regulations to flag suspicious transactions related to human trafficking and money laundering. This model has successfully been replicated elsewhere and has spawned a number of other projects focused on child sexual abuse material, organ, as well as fentanyl trafficking. Banks like Scotiabank have adopted a survivor inclusion program, which seeks to provide free banking services for up to 1 year and financial literacy assistance to individuals who have been unbanked due to their trafficking experience. In line with some of our European counterparts, Canada has recently engaged and adopted legislation to establish a beneficial ownership registry, which will provide more transparency. On January 1st of 2024, new legislation came into force, which will require certain Canadian businesses to report to the federal government on the risks associated with forced and child labor in their supply chains and identify the measures they are taking to address forced labor. Finally, I mentioned this earlier, but Bill 41 was introduced and passed to protect and relieve survivors of trafficking who are also victims of coerced and fraudulent debt. While these are all meaningful developments, there is still more that can be done. Before I finish today's session, I wanted to share a real-world case study from 2019, dubbed Project Ioni, which I am able to share with you because this information is publicly available and was released by the investigative team at York Regional Police. This case began with a tip from a victim to the Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline. A group of organized suspects were operating a company called Moon Waiting VIP throughout the Greater Toronto Area and engaging in an organized commercial sexual exploitation operation of multiple victims. Following the tip, police received a disclosure from FinTrack, which helped to identify and corroborate and support the victim's statements from the original hotline tip. With the information needed to build a case against the traffickers, York Regional Police, along with Canada Border Service agencies and the Ontario Provincial Police, executed more than 20 search warrants, which resulted in the identification of 7 victims, all of whom were connected with community supports. As a result, 6 people were charged. Officers seized more than $4 million from bank accounts operated by the accused persons, recovered approximately $3 million in illegal cannabis, and seized 34 firearms as well as ammunition. This case highlights the real opportunities that financial crimes investigations have in relation to combating trafficking and the impact that financial evidence can play in corroborating the statements of trafficking victims. The Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline has resources available for free for download that have been translated into 11 additional languages as well as 18 Indigenous languages. Please visit the website www.canadianhumantraffickinghotline.ca to download yours today. It's important that the sector continue to refine its anti-money laundering expertise as trafficking is dynamic and adaptable. Financial services can consider things like providing credit building microloans and other financial assistance programs such as financial counseling or financial literacy courses to survivors and community-based advocates. Consider creating educational bursaries and other pathways to employment and skill building for survivors of trafficking. But really, I want to leave you with some action items that you as an individual, as an employer, a community member can consider as an anti-trafficking ally. Some other really important opportunities include empowering employees by implementing yearly mandatory training for all staff. So that includes frontline staff. Consider inviting reputable anti-trafficking organizations to your town halls or to deliver awareness training for staff. Consider posting the Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline number in staff break areas, on notice boards, on digital screens that are accessible to the public. Support anti-trafficking organizations. Consider selecting an anti-trafficking charity for a corporate donation, an employee donation matching program, or even in-kind donations. Consider donating conference space or emergency shelter of available hotel rooms for survivors. Hire survivor consultants to review your policies and audit your trainings to ensure that they are survivor informed. Develop relationships and consultancy opportunities for survivor leaders to inform your own financial crimes techniques. Ensure there are clear anti-trafficking policies in place for suppliers of both goods and labor. Ensure that you are enforcing those policies. And finally, please share what you have learned today. Take this information back to your workplace, your dinner table, your community, your places of worship. Awareness is just one of the crucial ways that we can help shine a light on the issue of trafficking. Talk to young people in your life about online safety. This is where the majority of grooming and luring for sex trafficking is happening in 2024. Thank you so much for bearing with me and making it to the end of this training. For more information about the Centre, to access the research reports mentioned in this training, or to make a donation, please visit www.canadiancentre-to-end-human-trafficking.ca. If you have questions or are looking to coordinate services for yourself or on behalf of a survivor of trafficking, please call the Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-833-900-1010.